Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor here. I'm going to give you another item to look for, and we're going to just explain a little bit about the differences of it. It's going to be Hot Wheels cars today. A lot of people see them and run into and buy the average ones. For the most part, most 95 or better percent of all Hot Wheels you see will not garner you a huge profit. It's those other 5% though that I'm going to talk about today, because I run into these quite often considering how rare or scarce they are. Hot Wheels cars show up at these sales that I go to, vintage places, auctions, flea markets across the board. It's that one single car in a lot of 100 or so that's going to make your day and make and break the Hot Wheel experience for you. So we're going to go to the screen and we're going to talk about the ones to look for, the little key factors, and what's written on them right this minute that's going to help you make some more money. Okay, so today, of course, it's going to be Hot Wheels cars. Most of the expensive ones are Redlines. I played with these as a kid, so I finally remember Redline cars. The original ones that they came out just before I was born, and you could actually take the tires off. They were still in stores when I was a kid. I even remember them in like early 70s, barely. I still had some when I was a teenager that were still sitting in a closet. I took care of my toys, so all my toys were still in good condition. The best ones I find are the 1968, the original ones, or some of the specialty ones that were in different colors. Now, Hot Wheels had varieties. You can't really tell by just looking at a wheel and saying it's a Redline, because they made them for years. 30 plus years they cast the same cars. The best way, though, to tell is by the country of origin on the bottom. Redlines were only made in Hong Kong and the USA. Things like patent pending or patent applied for, the earlier marks are the better ones. It helps you distinguish them. I think they made them till like 77 or 78 Redlines. So it's like a 10-year period. So there's tens of thousands of these cars. But there's only, handfuls of some of the varieties and colors. Some of them were issued in like 2-packs, and you could only get a specific color in a 2-pack or a box set or something along that line. Some were only issued in certain cities and certain states. So that's something you have to consider on some of these. Now, I just want to show you the condition on this one. You can see the chips up there in the front. It has wear. All along the fenders in the front of the hood, it has chips. The paint itself isn't perfect. It has some imperfections as well, too. There's some more paint loss. The car still sold for $3,400 plus. 38 bids. Legit prices. The color of the interior with the color of the exterior can make them rare, because certain versions only were issued with certain interiors. And then when you find one like that's outside that stream, they can go for a ton of money. There's prototypes out there too. And there's also people that recreate the original Hot Wheels. They'll take a vintage one, they'll fix it up, they'll buff it up, they'll polish it, they'll repaint it to look like the originals, and then a novice person won't know the difference and will end up buying it. You can even buy like replacement windshields that aren't all faded. You can buy interior pieces. You can do this for Matchbox too. For anybody who's interested in seeing what that's about, if you just go on YouTube and type in repairing or restoring Hot Wheel, you will find a ton of them. There's people that get a couple 100,000 views on stuff like that. So, look it up if you were curious. But they sell, they're indistinguishable for the most part from the originals, as long as, because it is an original. It's just been repaired or, stored basically. So that's not a legit piece. So some people do con you. So you've got to know the difference. The basic principle is to know what the markings are on the bottom. In the car, basic colors. Pink, any of the pinks are like the most expensive colors I've ever run into. And there you go again. There's got chips. The actual chrome is worn down. It's not shiny chrome anymore. It's dulled. It's not in perfect condition, obviously, but it's still $3,300 because of the color pink. The pink ones we've always sold, even if they were just almost barely pink because all the paint was worn off, I was still able to sell those. I'm going to show you some farther down here that have more issues that still sell for some good money. This one has wear, the mottling to the paint, where the metal underneath is deteriorated and left spotches or splotches, sections of the paint underneath there that's discolored. It still sells. That's usually a good sign on them. Let's see if we can see the markings on the bottom. Most of them will say a date on them. Now, if it says 69, it was probably actually released in 70. U.S. and foreign patents pending is always the best. And this one's marked USA, so it is a vintage original. So it's either going to say USA, U.S., or Hong Kong. Those are the ones you want. So anyway, let's move on here. 3,000 for that one. Here's a pretty cool one. This one's a pink, but again, the metal is deteriorated underneath, and it's like modeled the surface underneath there, so the pink isn't very good pink, but it's the way you find them. Bottom's still fairly shiny. Now people can buff up the bottoms too, so you got to be careful and look for telltale signs that they've buffed it up with a Dremel or something. This one went for $4,000. I mean, it's a nice car either way, even with those issues. So you just don't find them like that anymore in condition. And the ones I buy the most, I would never sink hundreds of dollars into a vintage Hot Wheel because I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a restored one and a non-restored one. We lived in Florida, and we had a neighbor that actually restored them. He could even put the pop rivet back in. Yeah, I'm not going to give out the secret, but he had a secret, and he showed me what he did, and I'm telling you, I could not tell the difference between a vintage unrepaired one and then a repaired one, because the rivet was usually the telltale sign. Most people drill out the rivets and they'll repop it with something else, or they'll glue it, or whatever they do. I've seen the videos. There's many different options I've seen people do, but this guy had it down pat. He even had the indent. He had everything. You would never know that they were taken apart. So I'm always super cautious, since my neighbor showed me that, and I stay away from all the high dollar ones. I buy the ones at like cheaper auctions that are just bulk lots of them with a couple mixed in, because it's so much safer. Here's the next one. This one's an unpainted one, actually. Unpainted, unspun, unriveted. Doesn't have an inside in it. This is probably something rolled off the factory, would be my guess. Let's see if we can see it. It's a legit piece, it looks like, but it's just not riveted. I've seen occasionally where the rivets were so loose you could just pop them off. I'm not sure what this one is. Off-wall rare car. Yeah, it could have been even released like that, which is possible. Maybe they just missed it. I've seen some strange stuff in toys, so either way, it's a rare one. Yeah, this is unpainted for sure. Again, I wouldn't be able to tell if someone buffed it up, took it apart, and then, matched two pieces together trying to con somebody. I wouldn't know. So I would stay away from those. Again, it could be a legit piece. It went for a ton of money. Just because something goes for a ton of money on eBay doesn't mean it's legit. I'm getting some offers, so we're just going to leave those for now. Looks like the second one. Like on here, the stickers, the stars and stripes part, that's rare for some cars like this, just because it doesn't last. And this one's like in impeccable condition. It's 71. I think it's actually going to be dated that the way he's got it. Not dated, but that's when they're released. Again, some ones only came out in a specific color in certain years, so there's a whole price guide to these. Now, you don't have to buy a price guide for Hot Wheels. There are 2 or 3 good ones online. I think it's HotWheelsCollectors.com or something along that line. Just type in Hot Wheels and Redlines and collector, and you're going to find the site, I'm sure. And it lists and has a picture of like every one that you could possibly imagine. I do have a book for them because I've been heavy into these on occasion when we were able to get them in certain areas. Around here, they just don't show up anymore. So other than at an auction, and I only get lucky enough to get a couple Redlines a month if I'm lucky. Used to get dozens of them a month when I really hut and pecked for them. But anyway, $5,700 for this one. Again, metallic colors are what you want. Any of the metallic colors. Like this one's awesome. As long as it's not a repaint. Let's see here. I'm just going to check it out real quick just to make sure. Yeah, it looks like it's a decent one, actually. So this is a scarce one. It's a little later in the series than the first run. Like 68's the first run, 69 second. This one's still a good one, $2,400. Now, I've had most of the Hot Wheel cars themselves from these eras, but never in much condition, other than, the scarce one once a month or something like that. Now, I think they only made a couple hundred of these, if I'm not mistaken. It's a convention car. Yeah, only 200 from 75. So this is the kind of ones you really want. These limited ones where they just stamped on something, altered it a little bit, and then resold it. $2,200, 23 bids. Legit piece. This is typical of what you will see. Another one. This is another pink one. Now, there's several pinks. This is like a creamy, it's called. There's a lighter pink. There's like 3 versions of pink that I've seen before. Again, I'm always cautious on these. Don't sink a ton of money into them. until you know the difference. I know there's people out there that can instantly tell, just like a stamp collector, a comic book collector, to tell a fake one from a real one. I can't tell the reproductions, as I said, so you're going to have to be cautious. Marks on the bottom, you're always safe on. If it's just worn and you can see, obviously, that it's original, came out of a collection from somebody's garage, I wouldn't worry too much. Same with the flea market, but if somebody's selling one of these for hundreds of dollars, be cautious. Of course, in the package is always best. I turn up a lot of the actual buttons. On the right side in the packages used to come like a little button that you could hang from your clothing or something. I'd put on a hat. And those sell as well, too. Not for a ton of money, but you can get a ton of those. The Corvette, nice one. Metallic, of course. This is the first run. These are early boxes. $2,000. So magenta. It's a, not say common one, because none of these are common anymore. Everybody opened them up. Hot Wheels are still sold. There's still some high-dollar collectibles in the Hot Wheels that are just released. I'm going to show you one in just a few minutes here that's one of the ones you should always be looking for. It's not a car, but it's a convention piece, basically. They release them in other countries. Those are always scarce. I don't care what era it is. Almost always the Japanese versions or any of the overseas versions sell for a ton of money. So $2,450 on this one. Nice green one. Again, I don't get them in this kind of condition. It's very, very rare. You're going to have to get them from a collector or something, or be around the block and just walk up on the right collection. I get them occasionally close to this, but not the right ones. I've only had a few worth, you know, $1,000 or better. Very few. They're so far between, but I do get them in, you know, $100 or better quite often. So $1,500 on this one. The gold ones, of course. I believe this is from a special set. Holy Grail Dead Mint. I think this is from a special set. So I'm seeing is a salesman's sample. So, I mean, it's just, you know, they had mailways, too. So they came in all different kinds of sorts that you could get. The motorcycle ones I find more often just because people don't realize they're Hot Wheels. I'm going to show you one here, too, and we'll go a little bit into that because there's other things you can find, too. Hot Wheels has play sets and the whole works. Here's a nice collection of various colors of a specific vehicle and different versions of that same vehicle. They're all marked on the bottom what the model is. Like if it's a Ford Woody, it's going to say that on the bottom. So they're very easy to distinguish, as well as the date. $1,600 for these 22 cars. I believe one of them, though, is a newer one from a convention or something. Maybe it was re-released or something. I'm not sure which, but... nice one here too. With the stickers, they're always worth more, of course. Stickers usually are in terrible condition. This one was well taken care of, obviously. You can fake the stickers too, just, you know, another thought there. You can order these offline. Same with Matchbox. All the car companies or toy manufacturers, I don't know if they sold the molds or somebody's come up with their own molds, but you can order anything. Pretty much the decks, the spoiler on the back, the wheels, reproductions, you can do axles, the whole works. Watch one of those videos like I was talking about on YouTube. Just search in Hot Wheel restoration, and you're going to find a ton of these things. And I'm telling you, there's people that have 100,000 or more subscribers with a ton of views on each video. So it's a very popular field. So just be careful you don't get stung by one of those kind of cars. I'm not saying somebody would do it intentionally, but it's hard to tell. $1,450 on this one. Another one, obviously, Olds 442. I remember the actual car. They were always a badass car. Cross that badass out. I remember the car, you know. I had a friend who had one, so, you know, I'm a 70s child, basically. This is what we hauled around in these kind of cars. Nova SS or Camaro or something like that. So, anyway, just another example of one. Markings are all the same. This one is U.S. and foreign patents pending, and it's a U.S. version as well, too. So there are some differences in the tires, what the tires look like from the U.S. and the Hong Kong versions, too. The chrome looks different. One's duller. I think the U.S. version's painted on, and then the Hong Kong version has like a sprayed, like a real chrome-looking finish on it. So there is some differences, and I think even the size of the tires might be slightly different between the two versions. So don't be freaked out if you see slightly different tones and things. Here's a pretty neat one, too, light green. Now, here's a perfect example. This was only available in the 2-pack. If you didn't buy a 2-pack, you couldn't get this version. And 2-packs were very limited. One store might only have one case of 2-packs or a couple individual pieces. It's hard to say. So some of these cars are rare just for that fact. $13.99. Hot Wheels is definitely worth looking into. I'm telling you, because I go to places and see big, huge buckets of vintage cars, and they're a quarter a piece or whatever the cost is in the bin. And you sort through the bins that you find. You pull out the ones that are Hong Kong with Redline tires, or Hong Kong in general, pat pending. And you take those home. You get them for the quarter, and then off you go. For a quarter, I'll invest the money. Even if they're not super great cars, you can sell those in a lot if you pay a quarter or less for them and still make a decent profit on them. Another one in the bubble. Looks like almost like red stained or something. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just the image. No, it looks like it's definitely painted or stained. I'm not sure which. Oh, that's an oddball one. I couldn't say on that one specifically, but it's $1,254. Now, this is what you want to find. This display box. I think they made like 500 of these. Does it even say? Only 1,500. I'm sorry, 1,500 of these sets. Now, if you look up on eBay, there's probably 300-400 of these up on eBay at any given time. This is probably a little low for some of them. I've seen them as high as $1,500. These could show up at an auction, believe it or not. They're all over the place right now. Do a comp search and you're going to see a ton of these, and they're all selling, every one of them. Limited or not, most people when they buy these, if they buy them like a RA is what they're going to be doing, retail arbitrage on one of these. You might get it new for say $800 and you're going to flop it and make $300-400 off the bat. I'm not sure on the actual full-fledged price on these, but they are showing up. I did see one at an auction not too long ago, real recently. It went for some good money, and I was hesitant just because I wasn't sure where the market's going. Probably should have got it, so I missed out on a few $100. But again, I play it cautious. I'd rather not lose, $800 or whatever the cost is on something unless I know for sure. So, but this you want to be looking for. There's only one version of this, as far as I'm aware. Haven't seen another one. It's like a complete set boxed. It's a nice piece anyway. So, look out for this one. $11.80. Another red wine, open fire. Again, you can see the paint's got some issues. The chrome's a little dulled. It's still going for $1,100, so, they sell. I don't worry so much about the condition. I'm going to show you one in a minute here that's in terrible condition, and it still went for real good money. It just depends on the variety. You're not going to find the scarce ones every day, don't forget. So, but you find enough of these. A couple of years ago, I could pick up 100 or 2 red lines in a month. Nowadays, it's really limited down because there's so many people looking for these things. There's a lot of collectors, at least, so it's not just going into resellers' hands, but a lot of collectors snag these up too. So just over $1,000 for this one. It's a nice one, metallic, of course. As I said, they're all metallic, the original ones. Now, here's a perfect example. Look at this car. You can look at the title here and look it up yourself too if you want to take a closer look at it. It's really beat. I mean, it even has rubbed off paint or discoloration from something else that doesn't even belong there. Now, this can be cleaned up. The paint-wise, they probably won't touch, but the color of the car is the rare thing. It didn't come in this car other than like 1 or 2 places, and it might go into that. No, it doesn't even say anything on that. It's played with, just as is. Who knows what he listed this car for? He might not have known it would have went for $1,000. He could have listed it. In fact, let's just take a look. Let's see where he started it at. $10. $10. No, nothing there. That might be what I would start it at, not knowing if I couldn't find it in a book. That's not strange. That's not odd. Who knows? I mean, it's got 32 bids, so it's a legit piece. Worn like this and beat up like that. He charged $8 for shipping on something that he could have shipped for, well, probably insurance. I guess he's probably got on it. Yeah, probably insurance. Either way, I'm shocked at, sometimes on stuff like this that it goes for that much. But then again, I've seen Hot Wheels go for a ton of money. Now, here's another one. This is something that I look for, the dude actually riding it, the pilot or driver in this vehicle. I find those loose quite often. You've seen some of the figures that I find. I can pay 50 cents a dollar. Even sometimes I'll pay $5 up on something like this. That figure is worth 50 or so bucks any day of the week. Just the dude driving it. And there's probably a dozen or so different versions. Some go to Matchbox and other Hot Wheels. I think this is from 75 or 76 maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he doesn't have a date on there, but I'm pretty sure that's when this one's from. I mean, I was around when this came out, so... all together, though, it's all there. $1,000 for that from Canada. The dude itself, some of these dudes, now this one, there's different versions, so keep that in mind when you find the drivers. This version's a little harder to get than some, so the figure itself could go for $150, $200, possibly even higher than that. So just take that in consideration. Just got a couple more here. This is the kind of lot that I will find. They're a little newer ones. There's some mixed oddball ones in there. And if I don't find all these at once, what I do is I'll save up. I'll get 2 or 3 one time, a couple another time, one here, one there, and then I'll save them up if they're not worth selling individually. I find that bulking up Hot Wheels like this into a set, let's say you find a box the next time, you know, case for them, I do better on them. I'll get a bigger return on my investment if I put a lot in there because they're hoping there's something different or odd in that grouping when you sell them in big lots. But when you just have like 1 or 2 cars up in a lot, it's easy to see any discrepancies or differences in it. I'm not trying to hide anything when I do it because, you know, I'll be happy to add any photos up to 12. I do, you know, close-up detailed photos, and I don't know all my varieties, so it's not like I would try to, you know, mislead anybody, but it just sells better when you list them in a group, and I think it's the hopes that there's something better in it. So, you know, that's just an example. 41 bids on it, $928. So, and you can just see it's just a random lot of these cars. Better condition cars though, but this is what I had when I was a child in mid 70s or so. And the last one here is another Hot Wheels Redline, of course. $860, 23 bids, has some chips in the paint. This one, the chrome's pretty good on too, and so is the plastic, it looks like, but it's been played with. Bottom's probably a little worn. Now, when I see the photos like this, I always like it, if you're going to do a photo, to tilt it so you can see the reflectiveness. This kind of it makes it hard to see the actual condition. Lighting can affect how it actually looks, so just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to say anybody's doing anything intentionally, but, you know, just keep that in thought there. Yeah, and you'll see collections on eBay. There's some known collectors who did books and things like that back in the day, and some of these are now showing up. There's 2 or 3 different collection pieces or groupings of pieces up on eBay right now. Some are from like a museum, another one's from a gentleman who wrote the book. Some are custom collections, and then others are like prototypes, which do still show up because people somehow are lucky enough to get the prototypes. But Hot Wheels in general sells for us. The buttons, the cars, the play sets, the buildings. The buildings sell very well. We've had a few of the buildings, like a plastic garage and things like that came out in the 60s. Some of those can go for $400 or $500 in the boxes. Once or twice this year, or well, this past year now, 2018, I walked up on a big collection of Hot Wheels. So we've done well on them. Again, I haven't found any Hot Wheels worth, you know, $3,000, $4,000, but $1,000 has shown up a couple times in my life. That's it. So, you know, they are there, and I do make a ton of money on them, and I do find them enough to make it worth my while. So in your area, it might be a totally different market where they show up more often. Some areas of the country, they were well collected. Bigger cities, I live a little bit out of the city, so I don't have as much opportunity to run into these collections anymore like I used to. So, but I've got other sources, so I'm not, you know, worried here. We've found other means and stuff like that too. So that's what I have for you. Well, that's what I have for you today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.